Hello and welcome to Why Post-Liberalism Failed. Today we'll be talking about post-liberalism. And with me will be Thomas Howes, whose name I can remember the pronunciation of because we are recording about 50 minutes after recording a previous episode.
Yes, we're not recording a week later wearing the same clothing.
Yeah, we're doing back to back because we weren't sure when we would have this kind of time blocked out. I mean, next Friday will be the Friday after Thanksgiving, and the last thing I want to do is literally anything. So, so might as well just do this now. Oh, oops, sorry.
Yeah.
What we'll be talking about today is, like I said, just post-liberalism. And the reason is because there are a lot of people who think you're stupid. And those two people that I'm thinking of specifically are Michael Brendan Doherty and Ross Douthat. So we're swinging for the fences today. Literally, thousands of people are going to watch this and be furious with us for taking this on. But I'm being needlessly provocative, Thomas.
Wait. Who's this Michael? What was his last name?
Michael Brendan Doherty at National Review and fellow, I think, at
Oh, that's that MBD guy or whatever.
MBD is how a lot of people know
Uh,
the notorious
yeah.
MBD. But the reason why this came up is because there was a blow up over people calling JD Vance a post liberal.
He
And
calls himself a post-liberal.
yeah, he does. And this started with the attempt of David French to explain how post liberalism essentially built the bridge for Groypers to cross into the conservative movement. Um,
Well, they hired them.
yeah, the David French tweet was the post liberals absolutely helped blaze the trail for the Groyper moment. It wasn't just an attack on liberal democracy and the principles of the founding; was also the way in which they attacked hysterical rhetoric, deeply personal attacks. They taught the Groypers that the classical liberalism of the founding was a fool's game, and that the way forward is through punching and attacking through insults, derision, and mockery. Trump was the most powerful force in transforming vice into virtue in GOP circles, but the post liberals treated their own vices as virtues by so often and so, relentlessly abandoning decency in the public square. Once you've demolished respect for liberal democracy and demolished any real value and rectitude and character in public life, it's a short trip to nihilism and fascism. The
And then
incredibly,
Jonah Goldberg wrote a whole essay defending French's tweet there.
yeah, the brilliant response from Michael Brendan Doherty was post liberalism doesn't meaningfully exist, you idiots. So who are you going
Which
to
is not
believe?
what
And
Adrian Vermeule says, because Adrian Vermeule says that we're already living in a post-liberal order. We've already
yeah,
won.
yeah. So we need to pick one.
Yeah.
And then you get Ross Douthat, who in many ways is a really great columnist, but he does love to play this little coy game of of listening to post liberals and talking to post liberals, but never really being on their side, but constantly giving them a forum for their ideas. And I've kind of had it.
Well,
But
I think it's Russ or Ross. Ru Ross
Ross,
did that.
Boss Ross.
Yeah, Ross. I think I believe he's very sincere, and I believe he's sincere that he's a pro-America guy now. He didn't used to be. But I do think he's also friends with a lot of these post-liberals, so he tries to like kind of meet them halfway on a lot of things where you and I are not really that friendly with them, I guess.
Yeah, so he has like in his article on the New York Times, what is post-liberalism anyway? He sort of like shrugs at the fact that there is a definition of post-liberalism that's already been provided by Deneen, Omari, and Vermeule, and says that political post-liberalism does not begin with post-liberal ideas, but with populist revolts of Brexit and Donald Trump's victory in 2016. No, I mean this is wrong.
Hmm.
Post-liberalism was pre-existed these things
Yeah, it
because
did.
post-liberalism is essentially a moderation and revision of Catholic integralism.
Yeah.
And Catholic integralism was already in the process of developing a kind of reactionary resource mom before Donald Trump won the election. Why liberalism
Yeah.
failed as a manuscript was complete,
Yeah.
and Deneen had to revise it before it
Yep.
came out.
Yep,
And the
that's
entire
right.
conception of post-liberalism as it emerged originally was how to survive Hillary Clinton. And that was all based off of the idea of the Benedict option. And why liberalism failed is conceived as a kind of Benedict option explainer. It's
Yeah.
not it's not until Trump where it pivots and the Vermeule alternative becomes obvious, the Boniface option or whatever. Um, yeah. So I mean, like
Yeah.
this is just incorrect. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure
That's
if
right.
Ross like hit his head and so he has like long-term memory loss. But if you're going to write on these subjects in the New York Times, you might as well know your stuff instead of not know your stuff. So I was very annoyed by this. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, the whole thing was annoying. I mean, obviously with the scandal, right? Kevin Roberts with his stupid speech. We were, you and I have been critical of Kevin Roberts for a long time. I mean, it's ever since Kevin Roberts went to Heritage, his thing has been like Dwight on The Office pounding the podium and like basically paraphrasing Mussolini speeches. And so we're not already kind of like whatever. But I believe Roberts calls himself a post-liberal, right? Is it because
I have no idea what he calls himself.
he was at that event with Deneen and Vance, and they were talking about
Oh yeah,
regime change, and they're all like promoting Deneen's stuff. So whether he calls himself post-liberal or not, he's clearly connected with the post-liberals. He
Heritage
also,
has a an official relationship with the Danube Institute in Hungary. I mean, this is not
yeah, yeah, that's
um,
right.
this is not new that Kevin Roberts would be involved with post liberalism. I mean, like the people that work in Hungary include one of the sort of OG post liberal Catholic integralist types, and that's Gladden Papin. So
That's right. And
it's
Roger
no
Erzwan
surprise.
has been a fellow there for like 10 years as well.
Yeah, he was at Matthias Corvina's Collegium before he became the president of the Hungarian Institute for International Affairs. And both of those are directly tied to Orban and his money, and so is the Danube Institute. So
Yeah.
Hungary's been one of the chief sponsors and patrons for post liberalism, and so
Yeah.
early on. Kevin Roberts, I think at NatCon in 2022 or 23, said something about like very harsh and negative about integralists, and then I think uh, pretty rapidly reversed course on that. And so it's no surprise that during that whole fracas, you had people in the Heritage audience among the younger staffers, people who were fine with him defending Tucker Carlson being an anti-Semite and
Yeah.
interviewing Nick Fuentes, and then others saying that going to a Shabbos dinner would violate some kind of. I had no idea what that guy was talking about.
Yeah.
And I tweeted about it with the guy by name, but a friend of mine who knows him was like, "Look, this guy's going through it right now because of his comment, which he didn't realize was going to be blasted all over the place." So I took it down. I feel a little bad about it, but that kid needs to be he needs to be formed better, right?
Yeah.
Shabbos is just like watching. If you go to Shabbos and you're a Catholic, here's what's going to happen. Um, a woman's going to pray over some candles. Then there's going to be two more prayers. It's about 90 seconds.
Hmm.
You are not supposed to pray if you don't want to pray. So if you're Catholic and you think participating in these prayers is wrong, don't. And it's over.
Hmm.
You've now finished Shabbos. All right. You just
Yeah.
eat
Yeah.
after that. So just eat. Don't eat the gefilte fish. It's gross. You have to grow up with it in order to like it. And you probably didn't, unless you're from like the Pale in Poland or Lithuania, right? Rough.
Yeah.
It's a rough a meal that's like essentially like boiled fish cakes.
Hmm.
Um, and there's absolutely nothing against your conscience there. In fact, if you go look at the USCCB recommendations for Catholic Jewish dialogue, one of the things they recommend is for you to go to Shabbos.
Yeah.
So, get a grip.
Yeah, no.
Um,
So yeah, that's right. So there's this controversy. Obviously, Kevin Roberts, he gets up and he says this thing about like, we stand by Tucker Carlson against this venomous coalition opposed to him because Tucker Carlson had a
Venomous coalition. That sounds bad.
yeah, that's right.
I
And
wonder who's
because
in that coalition.
yeah, that's right. And uh, uh, um, because Tucker Carlson had Nick Fuentes on for a softball interview to mainstream him, and he was mainstreaming him, trying to mainstream him. By the way, as whatever you want to call Tucker Carlson as mainstream.
We'd seen people
Um,
already trying to do that. Like
yeah,
Crisis Magazine was trying to do that for
Crisis
conservative
Magazine.
Catholics.
That's right. Matt Walsh has been setting up for it as well. A bunch of people. They were having the debate, but you guys shouldn't do this. You should not try to mainstream Nick Fuentes because we knew that that's what they were trying to do. And people were like, "Hey, listen, there are no enemies to my right." Right? And
Yeah.
that's what they were saying.
And now
So
he's
then,
talking about like infiltrating the Republican Party so that it can, like, this is Fuentes, so it
yeah.
can make a kind of red brown coalition with Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
The guy endorsed Kamala Harris. If he's not a psyop, then he's like the biggest clown.
Yeah.
And but he does have reach. I mean, you and I have been on this for a long time. We've known about Nick Fuentes, and we
That's
teach
right.
students, and we've been warning people about this. And I just kept being told over and over again that the real anti-Semitism is on the left; it doesn't exist on the right.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, "Are you out of your?" I've been doing this since 2018, trying to persuade people, and they just
James, you
would
did.
not believe it.
James and I were just pulling our hair out because all these people on the right who have been telling us that there's no enemies to our right for like 7 years, all of a sudden they finally draw a line. Finally, after all this time, they're like, "Well, Nick Fuentes is finally over the line," and then they challenge Tucker a little bit, and then they
And they
say,
lose because it's too late.
"Yeah,
It's
yeah,
way too
no,
late.
it's too late." And then, but then they say, "Hey, look, us on the right, we actually police our own," and they pat themselves on the back. And we're just like, I want to throw something at you so badly right now.
Oh my, uh,
Because of the
it is bananas
self-congratulations.
that they think that this is good enough, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and so in response to Jonah's article at the Dispatch, George Weigel goes on, and I kid you not, he says this, that he's been going to the same parish for 45 years, and 95% of the people there have never heard of integralism. And I'm like, who cares? Right? That is the Pauline Mayer. I don't know anyone at the New Yorker who voted for Nixon. All
yeah,
right. It's like maybe you're a boomer in boomerland. And that's if you go to St. Joseph's
yeah,
on Capitol Hill, you might hear different conversations.
yeah,
Or if you go to like mass outside the Dominican House of Studies or
yeah,
at CUA, but you're not doing that. So give
yeah,
me a break.
yeah, that's right. And the other thing too that Roger did a couple of good things. Okay. I mean the guy, I mean, he works for Viktor Orban, right? The guy
Literally.
tolerates a lot of evil underneath right here, right? But he's not an anti-Semite. So he did call out Tucker Carlson and he probably broke up his friendship with Tucker Carlson over that. So good for him there. But then Roger, they're like, "Oh no, you can't be blaming," because then people at the same time, some of the old leaders of the Intercollegiate Studies Institute said that that whole organization's been sort of captured by these post-liberals, and they're like, giving they're platforming people like Curtis Yarvin, and they're doing all this stuff or whatever. And well, I don't know if it was Andrew Tate, but Orrin McIntyre,
Yeah.
things like that.
One of the
And
biggest
everyone's
pseudo
like defending
intellectuals
them, like,
on the right.
how dare you compare the post-liberals to these groypers and stuff like that? How dare you, or whatever. And while Rod Dreher was saying that he found out that he thinks that 30 to 40% of the conservative staffers in DC like Nick Fuentes, which is probably an inflated number, but maybe of the places he's going with the post liberals, that's probably maybe actually be true,
Yeah, because
right? So
Rod was in
like,
town with Orban, who was coming to the White House, essentially
yeah,
looking for an Argentina bailout, right? Because we
yeah,
gave Malay this bailout, and it meant that
and
he could turn.
he
And
also
the
wanted to
idea
be
would be,
exempted from the sanctions as well.
yeah, and the idea would be that this would improve Orban's likelihood for reelection. I don't think he got what he wanted.
Yeah,
So like Rod's here, talking primarily to people who I think would say that 40 to 50% of the staffers are groypers because they're groypers.
yeah,
If you're like participating in events with Orban at the White House, then you're highly motivated to be one of those people, or
yeah, I
highly,
think.
incentivized to be one of those
I,
people.
I think that's true. And here's the thing is these people in this post-liberal clique, the people like Kevin Roberts and Glenn Papp and all those guys, they've been bragging about hiring loyalists to in filling positions in DC and in the government with these loyalists. They've been bragging about it last year. If you can go on Glenn Pappin's blog or brag about how we got these loyalists. And that's there's two reasons they want all these loyalists, right? And loyalist means it doesn't just mean you're going to follow orders and you're going to, whatever, do your job. It means like you don't accept the election results of 2020, right?
Yeah.
You all these other things that you're asked to believe in, like these are like the conditions for you being a loyalist. Oh, remember when they used to ask JD Vance if he would have done what Mike Pence didn't, and he said yes, he would have done what Mike Pence didn't, right? Like
Hmm.
that's the kind of loyalism they're looking for. And you take the pool of those loyalists, those people that really believe are hardcore believers in this sort of post-liberal project, you're going to get some toxicity in there. There's going to be a lot of these kids who are like posting online anti-Semitic stuff and all that stuff because that's just the pool they're drawing from.
And as
So it's not surprising that 30 or 40% of them like Nick Fuentes.
yeah, and as we saw in Combs, help me out here. I'm suddenly from the Dispatch.
Uh, from the
I
Dispatch.
just we talked about her in the
Oh,
previous
Victoria Holmes.
Victoria. Oh my gosh, yeah. Not Combs, Holmes. She interacts with these people regularly, and they
Hmm.
don't. And we're not saying that literally they're all groypers, right?
Yeah.
That's not the position, but that a lot of them are,
Hmm.
and that they're the ones who are seeing advancement. And it's hard for a lot of conservatives to accept this because they don't do online stuff,
Yeah.
and they think that what they see maybe in Ross Douthat's column
Hmm.
or on Fox News constitutes what's going on. But first of all, you know the news consumption they're experiencing does not cover the events that are occurring on the ground in Washington. That's not newsworthy, right?
Yeah.
That some like chud got appointed as a entry level staffer at the White House. Nobody cares. But the second thing is that if you are George Weigel at like Falls Church or wherever he's going, you are so outside of the networks that are doing this sort of thing
Yeah.
by intention. You are
Hmm.
not going to those places, and the people that are developing these kinds of circles don't want George Weigel there.
Hmm.
I have a friend of mine who told me a story about going to an event at First Things, and there was a person talking about religious liberty, and the everyone there was pretending to be polite, but all the young people there were rolling their eyes because they thought this was boomer nonsense. And so
Yeah.
there's a kind of like post-liberal taquilla where like they'll put up with whatever the boomers have to say until they're around and not around, and then they'll make the decisions that more reflect a post-liberal rather than a more traditional conservative idea.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean people like even us like hardcore, we're all like hardcore Catholics, you and I were like, we follow all the catechism stuff and you know and that's
Yeah,
that makes us a
there's rumors.
minority.
There's currently Usha Vance is wandering around without a wedding ring on, and people are speculating. I just forgot to put mine on after after I got a shower, so no
Oh.
one speculate. I'm not violating marital whatever.
Yeah, but
Also, in case this is picked up on camera, if my finger looks a little messed up, I cut my finger on when washing dishes, so I'm having a day.
okay. Okay. But we don't realize like even in the church we're like a minority. We're
Yeah,
not, we're this very small percentage. Very few like low number of millions in the country are like us, right? Um and because whatever it is, I don't know what the total number is. But you know what? We're kind of like in that sense, the hardcore Orthodox Catholics always punch above their weight in general.
yeah,
Um, that
we
that
show
feel,
up.
yeah, we show up. We have we find our way to higher levels of things and like whatever. And so that can be good, right? But there's also the crazies among us, and they also are disproportionately represented in higher levels, right? Because they find their way in these networks and then they make their way to the top. So that's why, like, but you and me, because we teach a lot of younger Catholics, and you know, we're on more online than George Weigel. We see a lot of this.
Plus we
So
teach, and when I was at Ave Maria, I was having to field questions about what were the things that the Jews did that were so bad, and is it true that all of the American founders were Freemasons? And
yeah.
and I'd be, I wouldn't like, oh my goodness, I wouldn't like have that kind of response. I would just sort of, I guess this kid is, trust me to give him a good answer. And I would ask them where they heard this stuff, and they would tell me. And what's funny is that like normally the way it works is that they get into Michael Knowles, and Michael Knowles is this kind of transition figure where if you're watching Michael Knowles clips on TikTok or on Instagram, you'll start to get suggested on your algorithm people that are to the nut. I don't want to say to the right. It just doesn't make sense to me to describe people that are like post liberals as to the right. Um,
Hmm.
but but like people that are more radical than Michael Knowles, and that'll be people like Fuentes,
Hmm.
and it won't necessarily be the same accounts because Fuentes is banned, and they're always trying to figure ways to get past the ban.
Hmm.
Um, or they'll watch, this Aaron McIntyre kid, who's, speaking of chuds, it's but so they just so this stuff just gets put on their feed and they scroll through it and see it. And it's kind of like a bitter irony that all of this got started by Ben Shapiro, right? Ben
Hmm.
Shapiro is sort of watching this like this monster he created, the Daily Signal, start to fight him, like with Candace Owens and all these psychopaths that
Wait,
use this
so
as
you're talking
platforms.
about like the people like on South Park like trying to get their nut or whatever, like they're
Oh
master
no.
debaters. You're talking about that?
Oh
They had to
man.
take down that like thing actually, unfortunately, or yeah, it made sense though. But
Yeah, but it is kind of, it's kind of sad where it's, you want to grab Ben Shapiro by the shoulders and saying the call is coming from inside the house. You know,
yeah, that's true.
it's
No,
like,
it's
who could possibly be responsible for platforming all of these crazy people? It's like
hmm.
you.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
crazy to me. I'm surprised. I mean, eventually Ben had to fire Candace Owens. I'm surprised that Matt Walsh is still in his company.
Yeah, so I mean, the idea that we don't know what post-liberalism is deeply stupid
Hmm.
and a kind of almost like negging. It's like, come on, you don't know what it really means, right? This isn't really a thing. And it's a way of kind of diminishing something that we've already been able to define. You've written about it, I've written about it, we've got a book about it coming out.
Yeah,
But what's crazy is that I remember I responded, I think, to Jonah on Twitter, and there's like the first post-liberal order podcast. It's got like Deneen and Pecknold, and it's
yeah,
called "What is Post-Liberalism?" And they answer the question in the podcast. I've listened to it,
yeah,
and it's not it's a dumb game to play. That it's
yeah,
kind of, but what's happened is that the term, as you said at the opening, has begun to shift meaning. Early
yeah.
on, we
And that
called
happens with political terms. It happens
yeah.
with Democrats, liberals, fascists, socialists, any of those things. You have to treat it like a Wittgensteinian family resemblance term, where it's like, these things are like, Bob looks like Harry and Harry looks like Joe. Joe doesn't really look like Bob, but they have like a family resemblance. I think that's kind
Yeah,
of how these terms work. That's how they evolve.
we were calling them the new right for a while, but that's confusing because we used to call the old right the new right. And so I think
That's
for people
true.
of a certain age, they don't like to call the new right because they
Yeah.
think they're in the new right, even though the new right isn't new anymore because the 80s were 40 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, all these people though complaining about the post-war liberal order or whatever, you might as well call them all post-liberals at this
That's
point.
right. And
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people landed, including was it Nate Fisher from New
Oh,
Founding?
yeah, that's right.
Who
He
was
always
the
hounds me.
who was the person who said that they were glad he was that Robbie George resigned from the Heritage Board?
That was him, Nate Fisher, as well as the what's his name? The Wolf guy.
Oh,
Oh,
Stephen Wolf, who of
Stephen Wolf
course
also said
received
that.
a 1 year fellowship at the James Madison program.
Yeah, because
Uh,
they didn't know he was a white nationalist when he just got a glowing review from his dissertation advisor, who didn't know he was a white nationalist either. And
Yeah, poor Jim. That's Jim Stoner. Jim's pretty upset about it, because that's not really like what you want to have put out in the world. He thought he was putting out a scholar who did serious work on magisterial Protestantism. Yeah, so like here you have Stephen Wolfe essentially, biting the hand that fed him,
yeah.
and Robbie, of course, has done more for the conservative movement just this afternoon than either of these two guys have ever done for anyone.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, it's just wild. Like even like I was even annoyed by Ross, what's his name? Douthat.
Mm-hmm.
His last name, I have the same trouble you have with my name. Um he he even a little bit annoyed me. Like you needed to balance post-liberal response to higher education with the liberal response to higher education, and the liberal response was that of Robbie George. It's like even all this push to like create these programs and all these universities, which is probably the best thing that any of these people have ever done. That was Robbie. I mean, Robbie was the central figure working with people to do that. I mean,
Yeah, if
I mean, I
without
was
Robbie
there. I
George
saw
and
it
the Jack
happen.
Miller
I
Center,
saw
none
it
of this would have
happen.
happened.
I saw
What's
it
that?
happen. I saw Robbie meet Rob. I'm like, Robbie, where we? I said, Robbie, where were you? Oh, I was just meeting with DeSantis. They want to start this program down in Florida, like the James Madison program. It's like, oh, and I was, and then he had this other person who was at this other university, governor, trying to get some other program. And it's like, that was all Robbie. I mean, he was at the center of it. He was the central hub. And it started with his programs that were his idea at Princeton University, which became a network that he created. I mean, it was like, I don't, it just seems to me as like ungrateful. Like these, and I mean, I honestly think that if I have any criticism, and I'm not going to criticize Robbie, but I'm just saying that if anything, he's been way too nice to these guys.
Yeah, he's always like giving free advertising to. Oh, did you hear my voice crackers now? I'm
Oh, it's
46. I'm
okay.
almost 46. I'm still going through puberty. But no, the he gives free advertising to Adrian Vermeule's work.
Yeah, no,
I probably would not be doing that if I were Robbie, but you know what? I'm not. So
he's so nice to those guys, and they don't ever show any reciprocity. That's the problem.
in fact, you get the opposite, not just from people like Fisher or who's the other one? Um, oh, Wolf. But remember when like Christopher Rufo went after him? Saying what does Robbie stand
Yeah.
against Princeton's DEI? And I was like, so the secret here, guys, is that everyone's jealous of Robbie George, right? Like this
Yeah.
guy is like he's like the last serious conservative at an elite university,
Mm-hmm.
and he is completely surrounded at Princeton.
Mm-hmm.
But people still think, and you saw a lot of people say this, that he had it easy, that he's in Princeton and he's in his three-piece suits and he goes to eating clubs, and that people out in the trenches don't know he doesn't know what it's like for them. And it's like, bro, like, do you know like how bad it was for Robbie for so long?
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
Robbie made it easier for everybody else. It's like he gave cover to everybody else. So now it's a pretty chill place, especially in the politics department where he's at. But people like Robbie kind of if he's okay, then the rest of us are okay. Like he just gives covers, he covers for everyone. So
and
that's his doing.
And what the James Madison program does is it provides postdoctoral fellowships to people with recent PhDs that come from conservative programs or are themselves conservative, for them to complete publication of their research, both in order to make sure that it is published at all, and also for the aim of giving them the kind of profile they need for people to get jobs. And
Yeah.
then he also provides support for like mid-career and senior scholars to come in and do fellowships for their research. And I was a beneficiary of that.
I was a beneficiary of that.
And I would not be where I'm at the University of Tennessee without Robbie George. So
Hmm.
I have lots of criticisms of Robbie that I do not air, because I frankly haven't earned the privilege. And the idea that we can just sit here and say that Robbie George had it easy is crazy to me.
Yeah, no, it is
Um,
crazy.
and
Yeah.
and gratitude doesn't begin to describe it.
Yeah, no, that was the most annoying thing was all these people that had been benefited by him, but showing so so little gratitude or whatever. It was just, but I guess, um, yeah, this is sort of a kind of patricide that they were trying to, a social patricide they were trying to attempt there. I didn't like it.
So just so we're clear, we've complained that there is a definition of post-liberalism. I'll go ahead and give it
Hmm.
because it's it's one, but it's one that you and I have both done. In fact, like the first um, podcast we did was on this question. I guess I should have plugged our podcast in my response to Jonah. I forgot to do that. But there's three parts to post-liberalism. First, there are the ideas,
Hmm.
which are rooted in Catholic integralism. That the best regime is a Catholic bureaucratic autocracy that has its origins in deeply um, odd interpretations of Catholic political theology as well as reactionary political thought.
And that's
It,
it's normally a democratic one at least. So like, at least like the leaders have to be elected normally. Normally, I've never heard of that it's implied, right?
yeah, really, I don't think Adrian wants that. When he
Yeah, I
talks
think
about
ideally
American,
he could get rid of that. I mean, he actually does not want a legislative branch. He
no,
thinks
he
that
does not
we'd
refer
be
to
better
Americans
off
as
with a
citizens. He refers to them as subjects. So and I know Chad Pecknold has said the regime he wants is monarchy. So I don't know, maybe Deneen. And Sorbamari, of course, we don't know because he doesn't know. It depends on
well, Sorb's
which direction the wind's
tending
blowing.
towards social democracy, but he's still, buddies with all these guys.
So right, yeah. So that's the first part. The second part is an institutional argument, which is a transition. How do we transition? The answer is that we develop an elite of post-liberal students and younger people that we form and staff into institutions of political change, which is currently
Hmm.
ongoing, as we already described. And the third
Yeah,
is the establishment of certain political reforms, the most radical of which would be the suspension of Congress. But we've seen in Crean and Vimister, their book on integralism, this would redefine citizenship by baptism,
yeah.
Sunday closure laws, establishing the Catholic faith as the confession of the United States government, family policy, which redistributes welfare programs away from qualified individuals to heads of households. This is all out there for you to go read. We
Yeah.
document it in the book.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I think regarding the legislative branch part, I think Vermeule probably thinks with the U.S. the Congress is, in his defense, he has something to this that Congress is taking care of itself by not doing anything.
yeah. How did Dolphus describe it? It dissolved itself.
Yeah, so
When Dolphus became a dictator, he said that it had self-dissolved. And you know, just because Congress kind of doesn't do its job doesn't mean that's how the Constitution is supposed to operate. I mean, one of the problems the
yeah,
United States has experienced is when Congress did its job too well, right? When it was
yeah.
too strong. So this is just how constitutions work, right?
No, I know, and I agree, and I do think some degree of gridlock is a blessing. You don't want to have too many laws passed too often. It creates too much chaos for civil society.
And the
The
whole reason why
transition cost.
Congress isn't functioning the way it should is because of how much work it's delegated to the executive branch. So,
That's true.
really doing what Adrian wants is the reason why Congress isn't working. So, how about not doing that?
Yeah,
But it's hard
yeah.
to
No, that's
incentivize Congress to get those powers back because they don't benefit you for reelection. The real
yeah.
problem, in my opinion, and I've had this conversation with Yuval Levin like a couple times, is that political parties are broken, but he's got other ideas and he's Yuval Levin. So I think I'm automatically wrong.
No, what does he say?
Oh, well, he talks about how members of Congress remain as motivated for reelection as they were, which was supposed to be what motivated them to do the work of the people. But now, what gets you reelected isn't doing the work of the people; it's doing
Like
Fox
platforming
News
and
or
stuff.
CNN hits and fundraising all day.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You know,
Something has to be done to educate the population to want, them to do their jobs.
Yeah, so the problem is with incentives, but my point is that the reason members of Congress have to hustle for money all the time is because of bipartisan campaign reform act of 2001, which put hard caps on fundraising donations
Oh,
for official campaigns. And then after Citizens United, you had to do these huge bundles for 501c4. I forget what I haven't talked about this in a long time, but like essentially the super PACs.
Yeah.
And political parties can't receive money the same way they used to in the era of soft money before BICRA. But back when parties could fundraise on their own and have a ton of money, they could actually vet candidates better, and
Oh,
they could withhold funding from bad candidates. And the
I like that
reason,
idea.
yeah, well, I mean, don't trust members of Congress to pass laws about their own reelection, right? They're
Uh-huh.
gonna pass ones that are in their interest, not in the interest of the party or the people. So I
Oh.
don't know. I don't know. You know what though? Like, Philip Wallach and I did an interview on this on Law and Liberty, and I've done one with Yuval Levin. So there's ferment out there on this subject. But
Hmm.
the thing is that gets you closer to a discussion of what's really going on than kooky post-liberal diagnoses about the whether you're subscribing to Deneen's structural liberalism, undoing itself because of its contradictions, or the more Fuentes line of this is all because of the Jews. You know,
Yeah.
so that, just as a review, that's what post-liberalism is. It's not complicated. They are very, people like Adrian and Patrick, they're all very clear about what they believe and what they're doing. How many
Yeah.
interviews has he done with Ezra Klein? I mean, like, come on, stop
Yeah.
pretending that it's not out there for you to understand. um, Michael Brendan Doherty and Ross Douthat. Um,
Yeah, I mean, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. I mean, they're all friends with the same people that are conspiring and trying to push for a post-liberal order, or they're already saying that we've already have a post-liberal order, and now they're saying what post-liberal is not a thing. I mean, come on, that's just BS.
yeah, it's just it's just which argument do you want to shift into for whichever you need. But of course, as we just talked about with Schmidt in the previous episode, it's not important that you remain consistent on anything except for the person that you identify as the sovereign. So you can take whatever position you want. So
Mhm.
eventually you will be called to account, and it will not be by us. But that sounds kind of pompous. So maybe I shouldn't have said that. I apologize.
Oh, no,
I
it's
take
okay.
myself too seriously on this Friday before Thanksgiving.
Oh
I'm
shoot,
wearing my UT orange. I'm trying to be a good patriot here, but really, I just want to go back to sleep.
1 second, we better wrap it up. My wife just called me 4 times, so
Oh yeah, man, we're out of here. Sorry, Mrs. House.
no,
Is
it's
she
all
or is
good.
she Dr. House? I forgot.
Oh, she's Mrs. House.
Mrs. House. All right, we are out of here. I'm sorry for being pompous at the end. Thank you so much, Thomas.
Oh no, th no, you're good.